welcome back to Retrothon. My name is Sent, and I have the absolute pleasure tonight of commentating you guys through a run of Magical Poppin' by my good friend, Engi. Now, before we get started, I just want to let you all know that Engi is the Poppin' Master. He's the master of Magical Poppin', he's the master of Poppin' Twin B. I'm pretty sure he's the master of Poppin' music. Once this guy pops, the fun does not stop. Now, as you can see, before the run starts, we need to go over to the music tab, we need to set our favorite music, and we need to change the sound to monorail. That has absolutely nothing to do with the speedrun, but you still have to do it. Very important step. So I think we're just taking a second here to make sure we are good to get the run on its way, and then we'll get it started. Now, Magical Poppin', it's an interesting game. It's a 1995, maybe 1996 Super Nintendo release. Well, 1995, copyright on the bottom of the screen. There you go. Very rare, very low distribution number. I believe it's the only game that Pack-In Video ever made, and I don't know why, because it's cute as heck and it's super fun. Now, the core of the game is a run, jump, and slide platform. For a lot of the movement on flat ground, you'll see Engi do these slides, and if he does them right, you basically won't see the princess ever run. She'll just kind of chain the slide animation together. That is, I believe, 8% faster than just walking around if you do it properly, and it really adds up over the course of the game, at least until we get our major mobility power-up. Now, coming up here, Engi's going to take a quick damage boost off this bat to help him get around a bit. A lot of the speed tech in this game really is just kind of based around damage boosts, based around good movement, and based around star consumption. As you can see, in the upper corner of the screen, there is a star counter. And as Engi uses his special moves, which you can see listed across the top of the screen, he will consume stars. You get 20 stars for beating a level, and there are star pickups inside each level that you can use to earn stars. This is the first mini-boss. We call him the Furniture Wizard. He's pretty much a joke. You jump and use the super form of the beam special, the Super Beam, to take a full skull of damage away from him. You intentionally get hit by the furniture to help you time when his invulnerability is going to run out, and then you just immediately hit him again. Why can he control furniture? We have no idea. Don't worry about it. So Engi's going to move on down here and pick up the second of the major power-up items. The bomb, the baby rattle, the piece of candy. No one's really sure what it is. We just know it explodes. And that's going to let us take care of the bomb blocks in this stage and several others. But what might not be too obvious here is Engi's actually going to go to the left and take an unintended route through the second half of the stage. Normally, you can't actually get over that 3-box stack. It's just a little bit too high for the princess to jump over naturally. However, he uses a trick called the Super Pogo to get a little extra jump height and get over it. So to explain, when you swing your sword in this game, you can swing it straight up, straight down, or straight forward. If you swing your sword straight down while jumping and it touches the ground, you'll bounce off the ground a little and she'll do a cute little, pogo animation. It's really fun and it's great. But what's kind of unintended is if you jump at the same time your sword touches the ground, you will get the pogo height added on to your jump height, and that allows you to make a lot of jumps you normally couldn't do. And we're going to see the Super Pogo used again here to get an early hit on this gargoyle boss, and then immediately he's just going to use the Super Bomb twice, timing it perfectly, hit him right as he comes out of invincibility, and that baits him to dive down for the final hit. It's very important that you get that dive and you kill the boss as low to the ground as possible, because bosses in this game do not unload until they've fallen all the way off the screen. So that means you want to kill every boss in this game as low to the ground as possible to minimize the amount of time where it's just slowly falling off screen. Now, coming up, we're going to see another use of enemy manipulation. Most enemies in this game are actually on sort of an invisible hit counter. As you hit objects, take hits, and slam your sword into solid objects, the counter ticks up, and it manipulates their behavior. The jellyfishes in this cave are also manipulated by Engi's movement. So we're going to see him tap the ground there once, put the camera to the left, and if he's done everything right, yep, the jellyfish moves into perfect position, attacks right when he wants, and he just bounces up and skips about I'd say a quarter of the level. This is technically the back route to the next major power-up, the grappling hook. You're supposed to go down here through a much longer path and fight a mini-boss. We don't have time for that. It's a speedrun. Now, there is another way to actually make that skip, but it involves a frame-perfect, pixel-perfect jump, and nobody wants to do that in Marathon. I tried it once. I regret it. Just manipulate the jellyfish. It's free. So in those 2 repeated rooms, you could see Engi using another use of the super pogos there. A lot of the uses of it are really subtle, but in those rooms, they give him just enough jump height to make it up to some of the other platforms without having to jump a few more times. Now, this large room here is actually on a cycle, and Engi wants to get through it as fast as possible so he can make it onto this platform at the end. And yeah, he made first cycle, no problem, gets on there, gets the grapple, and moves on. The grapple in this game is a little weird if you're used to, Bionic Commando or other regular grappling games. It's weird. The timing on it is really late. This screen that Engi's on right now trips up blind racers every single time. Nobody is prepared to do this Tarzan section, and yes, it is actually required to beat the game. So for the remainder of the stage, we're just going to kind of see Engi run and jump until he gets to the boss room. Nothing too crazy to mention. There is a slight jump. We'll see if he goes for it. Doesn't look like he did. That actually loses 20 frames, but for about 2 years, we thought it was faster. Funny story there. Eventually, Oxalus, great guy, great tasser, did a new task of the game and found out that, yeah, that's actually slightly slower. So again, we're going to see some heavy boss manipulation here. I'm actually not sure which strat Engi is going to use for this boss. We call him Pina Colodout, despite the fact that he is clearly a Durian. Don't ask why. Alright, so Engi's actually going to use my strat, it looks like. Yeah, you just kind of hit him in very specific timings, in very specific ways, and that means as soon as he's vulnerable, every time he's vulnerable, you just fire beams at him. They still do a full skull of damage at this point in the game, and it's super easy. And then he lines himself up with the door at the end, so you don't waste any time running into the door. Excellent positioning, excellent boss fight. Now, the first room of Stage 3 is actually on a cycle as well. You need to slide and do a pogo to make it onto that platform. Otherwise, you're going to have to wait around for a little while. And there are a couple of cycles like that in this stage. That red slime is super annoying. I think every runner has a different way of dealing with it, but it gets right in your way of those platforms. So you either need to jump over it or hit it out of your way. Coming up here, we have the Skullhead boss, and this boss is the bane of runs. Unlike a lot of the other bosses, it's not based on the hit counter. It just kind of loosely follows you around the room and gets knocked away as you hit it. So we're going to see Engi here do a very specific series of motions running across the room, baiting the boss into not attacking for as long as possible, so that he can get the final hit on him at the lowest possible point in the room. Now, there is a bit of RNG-ish going on here. It looks like he missed a hit, and he got the good pattern, too. That's unfortunate. So the boss actually has 2 attacks. It can either send the circle of skulls around it out like a boomerang, or it can turn into that big skull and drop to the bottom of the room. And I believe which attack it uses is actually based on its precise X coordinate when it decides it wants to attack. So it's possible to manipulate the attack. It's just incredibly difficult and requires amazingly precise movement throughout the fight. Engi got the good attack there, but unfortunately, he missed 1 hit, so he wasn't able to end the fight in exactly the right spot. And now coming up in this room, Engi is probably just going to take a damage boost through the fight. Nope, he's going to stay on the platform. Marathon safety. I respect that. As we head over to our next mini-boss here, the Crying Eye. So for this boss, Engi's going to use the property of the super laser in that it goes through enemies to hit all 4 of the points on this boss at the same time and just quickly end the first phase. And then the boss bounces around the room, and Engi's going to position himself so that he can slash it as soon as it becomes vulnerable, kill it as close to the ground as possible, and move right on. It is important to note that that boss can actually soft lock the game. If you kill him on precisely the wrong frame, your game soft locks. Try to avoid that. Luckily, all the strats that people will use for that speedrun, super consistent, don't have to worry about it soft locking as Engi moves on to pick up the 4th major power, Ice. Ice is very similar to the laser, except it kind of fires in a shotgun pattern, and it costs an extra energy, 3 energy as opposed to 2. But it can freeze fire blocks, which we'll see a few times in the run. Engi's going to need to use that ice power-up to freeze them real quick, and then just shatter them with the sword. So now we do have to do a little bit of backtracking. The game actually intends you to loop around through the top path, but it's significantly slower than just taking a death in this room and popping out on the other end. We do have 3 lives, and we are going to use our 2 extra lives in the run for death abuses, just because it's so much faster than going through some of these rooms. So there's really nothing you can do to speed up this room, unfortunately. You just kind of have to wait on that platform. Some runners like the hat hide, some runners like to slash their sword, but really nothing you can do to speed it up. We'll see if he goes for the fast strat in this next room, because I really like it. He's gonna maybe take a damage, yep. So he's gonna take a damage boost off the fire pillar here, and then use the grapple. This room's very laggy, so that's actually a lot harder than it looks, to skip over that head enemy. And here he's gonna use the pogo to actually bounce off the arms of the enemy, and just completely ignore the danger in that room. Super cool strat. I can't remember if Engi or Vlak developed that one, but it's super great. I love it. So coming up, we have the boss of stage 3, and oh man, if there is a boss to hate in this game, it is the boss of stage 3. He does not follow any discernible pattern or anything relatable to the other bosses. So he has 4 heads, and each head has 2 hits, and it follows a bunch of rules. The heads can only appear if they are in a corner and they are facing forward and another head isn't preparing for attack. So the entirety of this fight is a scripted dance where Engi needs to bounce this boss into incredibly specific positions to not only make the boss vulnerable, but ensure that he is attacking the right head that he wants to hit, because hitting them in the wrong order can completely ruin the last phase of this fight. And unfortunately, we still haven't figured out quite how to kill this boss on the bottom of the screen. It would save about 30 seconds if we could, but that was a really good fight aside from that one. Very well done. Very well done. So the start of stage 4 just includes a refight with a mini-boss we've already seen. So I'm going to take a minute to just kind of talk about the history of this game. Magical Poppin', like I said earlier, it's kind of weird. It was released sort of late into the Super Nintendo's lifespan, and by a developer that really didn't push out any other major video games. It's actually quite rare to find a cartridge of this game. I believe they go for around $200 or so loose. But I think it's actually become more popular in the speedrunning community than it's become in the collection community or just the casual community over the past few years, with all kinds of really great high-tier runners. HDL's done an amazing run of this game, Millium, Engi, of course. A lot of people have gotten interested. It's a super fun run, it's a super cute game, and really there's nothing to hate about it. Engi going with the laser strat here, where you just keep shooting him with lasers. You can pretty much do whatever you want as long as you kill him on the bottom of the screen. And like Alec mentioned, that is the same HDL who is commenting the Sonic runs. He is a man of many things that are blue and spin. Now, stage 4 is just the worst stage of the game. It's hard, it's dangerous. Being on 3 health is not fun. You can get trapped under those spike platforms. Everything does 1 billion damage. And we need to do a couple of very risky damage boosts coming up, so hopefully those go all right. This room, in particular, is on a really mean cycle. If you don't get under those balls properly, then this head shooting fireballs will be out of alignment for when you want to get through there. And in this room, he's gonna just jump over here and then damage boost across. Nicely done. Now, if you're wondering why there are penguins, we'll get back to the penguins, because coming up, we're going to see a really important trick here. So, there is the fire ability in this game. You can see it on the upper right corner of the screen. Oh, that was so close. Right next to ice. Now, as it turns out, the only use for fire in the game that's required is to get through this room. And, second try, that was beautiful, Engi. What he did there was similar to kind of what you saw in Sonic 3. He kept the ice blocks off screen so they didn't load. And he did that by constantly wiggling. You cannot be moving right or standing still on that moving platform for more than 14 frames before the camera moves and those ice blocks instantly load. So what he's doing is he's wiggling back and forth, at least pressing left once every 14th frame, while timing his drop off the platform to completely just land in the doorway, enter it before the blocks load, and skip ever having to get the fire power. It's a super cool development. We've actually known about it for years and thought it was a TAS-only strategy until we were just messing around with it in the stream one night and went, wait a minute, we can do this. Also, that was a snowman with a crown and a cape. We don't know. Don't worry about him, he's dead. So moving on to the second half of stage 4, this is where things kind of get scary. A lot of these upcoming rooms are all on cycles, and there are cycles you want to hit in them. And there's, particularly in this room coming up right after this one, there's some damage boosts you need to take. And that can be risky as they cost you a full heart. So he only has one chance at this, and oh, he misses it, which means he's going to have to go hit the switch. Or no, he's actually going to die and try again. Interesting strategy there, choosing to take the death here. Unfortunately, that does set him back a few rooms, and something that's really annoying, especially for casual play, is that the items in this game, like the healing items, which are cakes, and the powers, which are stars, don't respawn when you die. So now Engi has to do these rooms with slightly less health. But we'll see if he can get the jump this time. This is so tight. Oh, and again, he misses it. He has one more shot if he wants to go for it. All right, he's doing it, and he makes it this time. This is perfectly fine. He just has to not get hit by the balls in this room. In fact, he's going to go up and get the safety cake just to be safe. Don't blame him. I've been there in a marathon before. It is very safe. So if you're wondering why there are penguins everywhere, talked about it earlier, promised I'd get back to it. Here we go. The story of this game is pretty simple. You're an unnamed princess of an unnamed kingdom, and an evil bad man has come and stolen your father's crown, which is magical, of course it is, with his army of evil penguins. So, yeah, stop the penguins. Be cute. That's it. This game does not have a story. So this is the boss we call Lazy Gyarados. He's kind of like, you know, the shiny Gyarados in Pokemon Gold's lazier brother who no one likes. He just kind of sits in this pond and slams his head at you. We're going to see Engi again just use the damage manipulation strat here to ensure that this boss always pops his head up on the right side of the screen. Now he's going to run over here, throw a bomb, and the bomb's going to catch the boss as soon as it pokes its head up. And that minimizes the amount of time we need to wait for it to fall off screen. Incredibly well done. All right, so coming up, we have Stage 5. Stage 5, in my opinion, has some of the best music in the game. Really love the background of the stage, really love the beat. And the opening part, you know, really not a lot to talk about. A little Super Pogo here, a little Super Pogo there. But for the most part, it's just kind of classic run, jump, slash platform. Now, one thing to note are these elevators that Engi's going to be getting in. They are incredibly unresponsive. What you're supposed to do is get in the center of them and press down, but I'd say about 40% of the time they just don't work. And I think Engi was trying to do a little bit of a manipulation in that room. What items enemies drop depends on what frame you kill them on after loading the room. So if you can ensure that you always kill the enemy at the exact same time after entering the room, you can always ensure you get the same item drop, which is useful in a few places to ensure you get health drops. Now, normally we would take a death boost out of this area after getting our next and final power-up, but unfortunately, because Engi needed to take a death in Stage 4 to retry that skip, we don't have the extra life, so he's going to walk out. But I'm sure some of you are wondering, okay, Magical Poppin', why did you put it in Sonic Block? Well, because, frankly, this is a Sonic game. It's cute, it's blue, and it spins. I mean, those are the hallmarks of Sonic, as far as I know. And hopefully we'll get to see the use of that spinning power-up here in just a second, because Engi's having a little trouble getting out of here. And he takes the game over. That's not too bad. He just has to restart the stage. Happens to the best of us, let me tell you. This game is very unforgiving with its extra life policy. You actually saw the extra life thing next to Engi right before he died there, the little golden head of the princess. That's actually not an extra life. That is a third of an extra life. You need to collect 3 of those, and each of them has a 15-second long animation. There is no opportunity to get an extra life in this run. And I mean, that makes it especially dangerous in situations like that, where an earlier mistake can really cost you. So yeah, we're just gonna have to backtrack to the ball power-up, and this time we'll probably at least get to see the death abuse that just takes you all the way outside, skips a whole bunch of content. Super useful. Now, you might actually notice, by the way, that at the top right of his screen, Engi seems to have the firepower unlocked. It costs 3, it's available. So, fun fact about that, even though we skipped fire in stage 4, it doesn't matter. When you load a stage, the game actually sets a flag that determines how many of the abilities you should have. So even though we skipped it, we have it anyway. Even though its only use is to lag the final boss and make some cool colors. So coming up here, we have a fun little mini-boss. We call him the Rhino Guard. Now, your objective in this fight, pretty simply, is to ensure that he's doing the fireball attack, which you can do easily enough by just pogoing off the ground if he's not. And just kind of hit him. He's really not smart or dangerous or anything. Just hit him. Make your dreams come true. Just hit him. This mini-boss doesn't fall off the screen, so we just kind of have to sit there and wait for him to go away. And eventually the door opens. Now, we're going to do something I don't recommend you trying at home, and that's rolling into fire. And he's going to roll into the fire there and damage boost off quickly, and then start a series of chain rolls through this room. You can see, now that we have the ball power-up, the game gets ridiculously faster. Rolling is by far the best form of movement whenever you can do it. And really, its only downside is you have to follow the curvature of the ground, and it costs 2 stars every time you want to roll. So this is a terrible Gundam. And all we're going to do for this fight is poke him once, and then stab him in the corner. And, yep. He is not very smart. So there are a couple of other interesting properties we can talk about the roll power-up. One of which is that if you stop rolling while the princess is right on the corner of a block, she won't actually do that little skid-out animation you see her doing sometimes. Instead, she will just basically stop in midair. And that is super useful. It saves a bunch of time if you can intentionally trigger. This room is hilariously laggy. You want to wait in the doorway for as long as possible to avoid as much of the lag as possible. And then here, Engi is going to just use that penguin on the corner to boost him up onto these platforms, which is super useful. That penguin, before we figured out that strat, had a laundry list of names that all ended in Troll Penguin. But you know what? Now he's our friend. And we're going to move on to fight a boss from Sparkster or Rocket Knight Adventures, depending on what console you prefer, the Mecha Ostrich. The Mecha Ostrich is kind of an involved fight. You need to hit him in the head to expose the weak point on his belly, and then hit him in the belly. We're going to do both of these things at the same time with the jump laser, before immediately hitting him with another slash, and then doing it again with... Oh! I actually have not seen Engi do this strat before. That was nice. Perfectly threw a bomb over the ostrich's head to hit the belly, and then tapped the head to open it up. I'm going to have to steal that one. And Engi makes short work of that fight. Very well done. Gonna make sure he switches to roll power up for the start of stage 6. Very important to have that equipped ahead of time. Definitely helps you make a cycle in the very first room. All right, so stage 6. Stage 6 is particularly difficult. Engi wanted to start out there with a little damage boost to the right off that boomerang guy. Unfortunately, couldn't get turned around in time. It's a lot harder to do. So this next room coming up is particularly mean. Engi is going to go with the damage boost off the spike strategy. That's risky, but I like it. You can also take a damage boost off the bats, which costs slightly less health to do. But it looks like he's fine on health as he got a health drop from that bat here. Coming up in this next room is the bunnies room, and we actually have a way to manipulate health in this room. So we're going to see if he goes for it. Yep, and he gets it. Gets the free cake. And yeah, if you don't get that cake, the next few rooms can be a little scary with all the damage you need to take. But, I mean, that cake method is super free. Again, I apologize. I can't remember who discovered how to manipulate that cake, but we did something ridiculous before that. And, yeah, that's so much better. This room in particular has an incredibly tight cycle, but Engi has absolutely no trouble making it because he's a god. So we're rolling through these areas. Engi's going to skip the cake here because he doesn't care. He's just going for it. This is the Red Wizard. The Red Wizard is the least interesting boss in the game. It kind of looks like Engi's doing nothing. And that's because what you have to do. You need to wait for this guy to bob up and down 3 times before he rears back to throw a fireball. If you don't, he puts up a shield and runs away. This is a very dumb fight. Now, it's actually worth mentioning you can hit him with your sword instead of the grappling hook, but you don't want to, because for whatever reason, that makes him take an additional up and down cycle before he becomes vulnerable again. So Engi's just doing the smart thing. He's hitting him with the grapple at max distance, jumping into it as soon as he sees him, start bobbing up a 3rd time. And, I mean, the fight's as easy as that. This guy should never have an opportunity to attack. Now, I do notice that Engi has not performed a hat hide yet, so hopefully before the end of this run... He heard me. Thank you, Engi. Thank you for the hat hide. The hat hide is, of course, the trademarked poppin' speedrunner move. You gotta include at least 1 in your run. You can include it wherever you want, but you gotta include at least 1. This room's also on kind of an obnoxious cycle. Engi's gonna take the little bit easier timing through it and just damage boost off that lightning orb. There are some more difficult, tighter cycles you can make, but missing them can just leave you in a world of hurt. So Blue Wizard is the absolute opposite of Red Wizard. If you do nothing, he will actually imitate Red Wizard, but if you run at him, he'll make himself vulnerable. I'm pretty sure this guy was put here just to annoy, people playing casually, because, oh, well, he's just like the Red Wizard. I'm sure I should just stand still and do nothing. But no, you should run. Just run. And with Blue Wizard down, we are coming along the final stretch. Just one more mini-boss, and the final boss to go is... Oh, Engi rolls a little bit late and actually rolls right into that enemy there. Bit of unfortunate timing there. He was probably not intending to take that lightning ball damage boost he took earlier. Like I said, this game is super unforgiving, especially when you're playing on 3 hearts. As Engi, I still don't understand that trick. He, uses his sword to bounce off the wall and then just... gets over there without needing to grapple. It's crazy. Also, he hits the, I think it's a 2-frame window to roll up that wall, so super impressive. This man is hitting all of the important tricks. To kind of explain that further, at the very height of your pogo in that room, you have 1 or 2 pixels where you can touch the wall high enough to start rolling up it. And if you don't, you'll just kind of slide off of it. But if you do, it lets you make an earlier platform cycle. And I believe the entire thing saves 12 seconds, I want to say, overall. It's absolutely huge, and it's at the very end of the run. So it can really make or break it. So here we have a refight with the terrible Gundam. Engi's gonna just put him in the corner again. Nobody puts Gundams in the corner. Except us. I mean, everybody. Everybody puts Gundams in the corner. Alright, so just one more room between Engi and the game's final boss. He's going to pause briefly before rolling in there so he doesn't get stuck under that first spike pressure. And yeah, here we are. Time for the final boss. Now, the final boss has two phases. And his first phase, we used to think was a whole lot of RNG and making sure he didn't do a specific attack too many times. As it turns out, we can just manipulate him into doing this useless fireball thing over and over, and he can never hurt us. I don't know why we haven't been doing that, but yeah. As you see, he has two attacks. He has this fireball that doesn't do anything, and this kind of Mega Man 1-esque Ice Slasher attack. The Ice Slasher has three different patterns, and one of them is effectively unavoidable if you're going for the earliest possible damage on him. But Engi's just going to manipulate him to do the fireball as much as possible. And we're going to move into phase 2 of the final boss of this game. So this thing is a bit complicated. Its weak point is the eye on its chest. And you can hit it with sword, bombs, or your grappling hook. After you hit it, it will close after a specific amount of time. I believe it's 970 frames, although I'm not sure why that number comes to mind. Engi is going to use a consistent method to time that out. It looks like he uses the jumping method, which is the same method I use. 12 jumps and throw a bomb. He's going to throw a bomb at the eye so that its active frames are going on as soon as the eye opens. And what that means is the eye doesn't immediately close, so Engi can get another hit on the boss, and the eye will never change color. This is only possible when the eye is orange for some reason. When it's purple, you have to do the hit with your sword, otherwise it doesn't work. But Engi's also going to use his grappling hook to stay out from directly under this boss. This boss can only attack if you are directly under it. So by combining these two techniques, this boss really doesn't ever get to do anything, and we kill it with double hits the entire way through. Now, if Engi does mess up a cycle, he's going to need to go under the boss to trigger the hit and go for a double hit, and things are going to get rough. But it looks like he's going to have absolutely no problems. Count to 12, throw a bomb, this thing's over. We'll see if he does anything fun after the boss dies, but it looks like we are just about done here. And, that's time. 31:11 it looks like, so solid marathon run, solid marathon. Great job, Engi. Magical Poppin', super fun game, guys. We got a lot of resources out there. We got a bunch of really great runners who are super helpful. We got a Discord. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope Engi enjoyed it. Fortunately, he can't be here with me. Yeah, thanks for having us so much, Retrothon.